Cashapp Radio presents The Center with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, friends, family, allies, and enemies. I'm your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio on the Wake Up Radio. Brother, you got ripped off. Could you do me a favor? I did not make a post on Instagram, so could you at least put a message on Telegram that we're on live tonight? I appreciate it. Before over there, the brother Elijah. So I wasn't expecting a lot of people because I did not get a chance to do that. So while I'm waiting for people to come in, and depending on how many people show up to get this notification, will depend on how long I'll be on tonight. If nobody shows up, this will be a part one. And I'll get deeper into it in part two. And if people show up, then we'll go from there. So there is a number I'm looking for. We don't reach that number as far as viewers, then this will be a 1 hour show. If we do, it'll be more than that. While I'm trying to get my music together. See what else. So first of all, I want to thank everybody that purchased the live stream from Brother Jenny this weekend. That we hope that you enjoyed that, and I'll get that information out by Saturday. The information that about a handful of people was looking for that Jenny was putting out. As far as what was discussed Saturday. And let me see. I'm trying to find me some music here. Not sure what's up with our music right now. All right, here we go. All right, now that sounds better. I thought this weekend's event was successful. We got a good response from the people. There are a couple of people who are who at the highest tier of membership. If you did not get a ticket and you want a video, I'm editing it. I will send that out probably Friday. So if you're interested in that, you can email me across the screen, dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. It's only a couple of those people. The other members who are on the lower tier, the middle tier, I'll probably take like a 10-minute clip and send that to you all. If you are a member, please do me a favor and just shoot me an email. So I know I have your email. Just shoot me an email at dc.radical_1@protonmail.com and just say member. Just say YouTube member. So I know I have everybody's stuff. But yeah, with that said, tonight's discussion, we are going to talk about, and look like I'm gonna do it for about 50 more minutes, and we'll pick up with it maybe Sunday. We're gonna talk about Trump's first week in office and all his all the different things that he has put forth as far as uh, executive orders. He said that he would get busy when he got in. He's kept his word on that front. I mean, it's so much stuff happening that I can hardly keep up, and it seems like other people are having trouble keeping up as well because they're trying to figure out what's legal, what he can do, what he can't do. Stuff is going to court. Some stuff is, they say he's pulling it back, and then they like he's not pulling it back. So it's all types of stuff going on. So we're going to look at what we're going to do. Actually, we're going to look at this presidential actions page, and we're going to start there and kind of work our way back. But the first thing I noticed, actually a sister sent me this. I was like, oh, what is this? So we're going to go here. This is presidential actions. This is their official whitehouse.gov website. This is additional measures to combat anti-Semitism. So we're going to check that out, see what that's about. This is executive order from today, earlier today. And it says, by the authority vested in me as president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose. My administration has fought and will continue to fight anti-Semitism in the United States and around the world. Let us stop right here. Let's think about this for a moment. The president of the United States says that he wants to fight anti-Semitism around the world. As president of the United States, it's not actually your job to fight anything around the world, really, unless war has been declared on the United States. As far as I'm concerned, the United States president's authority is limited to the homeland and any other territories under the jurisdiction of the United States of America by international law. So saying you're going to fight against something internationally is somewhat disturbing, in my opinion. I think he has, just by that statement, superseded his bounds of his authority. But, we're going to look at it. So, said on December 11th, 2019, I issued Executive Order 13899, my first executive order on combating anti-Semitism, finding that students in particular face anti-Semitic harassment in schools and on university and college campuses. Executive Order 13899 provided interpretive assistance on the enforcement of the national civil rights laws to ensure that would protect American Jews to the same extent which all other American citizens are protected. So this is strictly based on the protection of Jews as written in the executive order. This order reaffirms Executive Order 13899 and directs additional measures to advance the policy thereof in the wake of the Hamas terrorist attacks of October 17, 2023 against the people of Israel. These attacks unleashed an unprecedented wave of anti-Semitic discrimination, vandalism, and violence against our citizens, especially in our schools and on our campuses. Now, let's stop right here. I'm going to say this. This unprecedented wave of anti-Semitism, can I be frank with you and say, I have not actually, I've heard it, but as far as actually seeing physical violence, seeing reports of, let's say, physical assaults, and things of that nature, I have not seen that. Okay. If anyone has seen that, I've looked for actual reports of like maybe, physical violence. Like, I'm gonna just be completely honest. as a black man in America, when other people talk about discrimination and things that they are facing, if you're not being gunned down in the street, beaten, brutalized, having your house burnt down, um, violated, people disappeared, uh, set on fire, and all the things that we faced from minute one in our sojourn here in America. If that's not what you're facing, that's not the type of attack that you're facing, I really do not consider it violence. Now, that's my personal assessment, right? Having survived on this continent for 5 centuries, in essence, behind enemy lines, when people talk about discrimination, like, I'm just be honest, if there's no physical violence, I don't want to say I don't care, but it's going to take some physical violence. I'm going to have to see some people in the hospital for me to feel any sympathy or to be moved in any way, shape, form, or fashion, right? Now, I know, we don't want to engage in the oppression Olympics, but as the great grandson of sharecroppers, right? The people who had to leave places where they were called home because of, real threats to people's lives. The idea that, there's some unprecedented hatred of any group of people other than black people, to me, it's laughable. I'm just be completely honest. I'm not trying to be disrespectful of anyone. Hey, this rant may get the whole channel taken down, but I'm just being completely honest. Like, where is the executive order for the protection of black life? You're right. I mean, and I'm not talking about Mr. Trump. I can't say, hey, Mr. Trump, how come you haven't written anything for us when at this point he's been here for a week? Mr. Biden? Nope. Mr. Obama? Nope. Certainly not Mr. Bush. And we can go back, so forth and so on. So I just want to point out the contradictions and express my personal affront at this. But let us move forward with what we have here. It says, I went past the unprecedented way. It says Jewish students have faced an unrelenting barrage of discrimination, denial of access to campus common areas and facilities, including libraries and classrooms, and intimidation, harassment, and physical threats and assault. Again, I'd like to see some documentation of that. It says a joint report by the House Committees of Education and Workforce, Energy and Commerce, Judiciary Oversight and Accountability, Veterans Affairs, and Ways and Means called the federal government's failure to fight anti-Semitism and protect Jewish students astounding. This failure is unacceptable and yesterday. All right, so can we get these same subcommittees to talk about the lack of protection of black life and see how astounding that is? Or is that par for the course? All right. Anyway, that's all. That's section 1. Section 2. It shall be the policy of the United States to combat anti-Semitism vigorously, using all available and appropriate legal tools to prosecute, remove, and otherwise hold accountable the perpetrators of unlawful anti-Semitic harassment and violence. This is key. It says all available and appropriate legal tools to prosecute and remove. So within that, there is we have the verbiage necessary for the deportation of people who are deemed committing acts of anti-Semitism. This is interesting, right? So, in essence, I guess if you're an American citizen, you're gonna get locked up, and if you're not an American citizen, or if you're an American citizen but it's questionable, Trump is trying to do something with birthright citizenship, which I won't actually get into today, then you will possibly be given the heave ho. I'm assuming that black people are exempt from that. If you were, descendant of enslaved Africans, but who knows? I mean, Mr. Trump may try to start sending anti-Semitic black people to Ghana. You know what I'm saying? So I who knows how that would work. Better not give him any ideas, because he, somebody in his administration may say, that's an excellent idea. Just don't send me to Nigeria. It's already enough people there as is. Greetings to Sister Najee. Now, says additional measures to combat anti-Semitism. I'm not going to get into this because, it's dealing with the campus, and then just go to the general provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or head thereof. The order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any person. So that is that. So I noticed that. I've said my piece on it. Probably shouldn't have started off the show with that, because show might be over. You know what I'm saying? I didn't set this for monetization. Oh well, maybe that was a good thing. I forgot. Let's see. Let's go to, I don't know. All right, yeah, let's go to this one. All right. Expanding Migrant Operations Center at Naval Station at Guantanamo. I'm going to read only a little bit of this because I have a video that deals with this, and we're going to get into the video. So it says, memorandum for the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Subject, expanding Migrant Operations Center at Naval Station Guantanamo Bay to full capacity. I hereby direct the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security to take all appropriate actions to expand the Migrant Operations Center at Naval Station Guantanamo Bay to full capacity to provide additional detention space for high priority criminal aliens unlawfully present in the United States, and to address attendant immigration enforcement needs identified by the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security. This memorandum is issued in order to halt the border invasion, dismantle criminal cartels, and restore national sovereignty. So that one is short and to the point. Simply put, Mr. Trump is going to, or has ordered them to, expand Guantanamo Bay so that they can take what they consider the worst of the criminal element of illegal immigrants to. That's where they shouldn't have done. Mr. Trump said that some people, they're so bad that if they ship them to their country's not going to want them, and they're going to let them leave back, and then the people will come back. So he said, instead of doing that, he's going to send them to Guantanamo. And a time frame for how long they're going to be there hasn't been expressed. So I'm not sure that that's been worked out. So before the ingredients to raw eye to Vita. So okay, we're getting a decent number of people in here. So what I'm going to do now is, since we do have some people in here, I'm going to bring up the Guantanamo Bay video so y'all can check that out. And I just find this interesting. I guess because these people are not citizens, they don't have any rights. I guess it's just like an extension of what Mr. Bush did post 9/11, where people don't have rights, and you send them off to this military prison, and literally do whatever you want with them. So we're going to check out this video, and they'll give us the details on this situation.
Begin with breaking news. President Trump instructing the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing to house tens of thousands of deported migrants at Guantanamo Bay. Good evening. I'm Lauren Pastrana.
And I'm Elliot Rodriguez. It's the latest move in his administration's crackdown on immigration. Trump telling reporters at the White House today that the facility would be used to detain, quote, the worst criminals.
Let's get right out to CBS News Miami's Joan Murray. She is live in Miami with what comes next. Joan?
Well, this was a bit of an unexpected announcement. People are still trying to process it. The president says it will double the capacity to be able to house undocumented immigrants who have been taken into custody. President Trump says he plans to send 30,000 undocumented immigrants to detention facilities at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo.
The Department of Immigration and Customs Enforcement has arrested over 5,500 people in raids around the country, including here in South Florida.
There's so much chaos and uncertainty. And I really think that the president is using this as a scare tactic. He's using it as a way to traumatize people so that he can prove or show people that he is in charge.
Vanessa Joseph is an immigration attorney for Catholic Legal Services.
I think it's a time for folks to make preparations, but also just to calm their fears down. I think the best thing that folks can do right now, if they are in a situation where they have doubts, is to seek the advice and counsel of an immigration attorney. It could be a private attorney, it could be at a legal service organization, but to ensure that they are talking to someone who can analyze the facts of their case in particular and make a determination alongside them as to, number one, whether the law applies to them, but also to determine what avenues of relief they would like to pursue. Don't get advice from social media. Don't get advice from the internet, not ChatGPT or any AI platforms.
On the Guantanamo Bay announcement, Governor Ron DeSantis tweeted happy to send flights from Florida down that way with deportees in tow. And again, immigration attorneys recommend if you are in this situation, an undocumented immigrant, your best bet right now is to try to seek some legal advice to figure out what to do. Don't wait until it's too late.
So, one thing we can say about Mr. Trump is a lot of stuff he's doing. He's doing what he said he's gonna do. So, that whether you agree with it or not, one thing he's setting the tone for. If there are policies that Mr. Trump is for that you don't like, you better make an adjustment because he apparently is following through with it. Brother RBG, you said that using Black people as the face of pro-immigration. Well, what you're going to notice in a lot of these clips is they're using specifically Black women as the face of as against everything that Trump is talking about. Like we're in almost every clip that, as far as I remember. So that is that. Let's see. I don't actually know what ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling is. This was done today, so I do not even know what this is. So we're gonna read it. So he signed what 4 or 5 executive orders today. I'm not even gonna lie. It's like I gotta give him credit. Nothing else he's working. I don't know if he's trying to use up all his energy now before he runs out and gets like Mr. Biden, but yeah, he is not messing around. So this one is, let's see, by the authority vested in me as president, the Constitution, laws, and United States, it is hereby ordered. Excuse me. Parents trust American schools to provide their children with rigorous education and to instill. Hold up. Let's start right here. Let's start right here. Is this part of education? All right, let's read this part. It says, provide children with rigorous education and to instill a patriotic admiration for our incredible nation and the values for which we stand. Let's start right here. Is that accurate? Like seriously, it is instilling patriotism a part of the education system. Well, you said multicultural. Well, actually, no. What he's talking about is anti-multiculturalism. He's talking about strictly, in reality, what he's talking about is white nationalism. But what he doesn't understand is that you can't hold up Zionism and white nationalism in this day and time. He thinks so, right? But he doesn't understand who he's dealing with. Sister Najee says, well, yeah, patriotism should be a part of the nation's program for their children. All right. Well, if that is the case, as Black people, as a nation within a nation, see, of course, she took it right out of my mouth. She says our children should be in our own schools. So, okay. All right. And Sister Najee say before you even get started. Now, let's go. Oh, okay. Let's check. All right. Let us read this. This is going to be interesting. There's a reason why he put. Now I see. See what I thought this was going. Because I'm reading it with you. I was not familiar with this at all. Where I thought this was going. It is, but it's not in. How can I put it? It's not where I thought it was going. So, all right. And maybe this what, brother, you got ripped off. Maybe this what you were saying. You were saying he's attacking multiculturalism. He says, let's go back. In recent years, however, parents have witnessed schools indoctrinate their children in radical anti-American ideologies while deliberately blocking parental oversight. Such an environment operates as an echo chamber in which students are forced to accept these ideologies without question or critical examination. In many cases, innocent children are compelled to adopt identities as either victims or oppressors solely based on their skin color and other immutable characteristics. In other instances, young men and women are made to question whether they were born in the wrong body or whether they view their parents and their reality as enemies to be blamed. These practices not only erode critical thinking, but also sow division, confusion, and distrust, which undermine the very foundation of personal identity and family unity. Now let's stop right here. Here's my thing, right? The part with the wrong bodies and all that, of course, y'all know I agree with that. The part of victims and oppressors, I do not agree with that. See, it's one thing to simply document history, and there's another thing to put forth an ideology. There is no person on earth, I don't care how scholarly they think they are, I don't care how many degrees they have, or anything like that. I challenge any panel of scholars that anyone can bring forth that to a debate with myself and two of my brothers, and we will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt the atrocities that have gone on against our people, who perpetrated them, who benefited from them economically, who benefited from them as far as the founding and the building up of this nation, and so forth and so on, right? These, to quote Thomas Jefferson, we find these truths to be self-evident. You see what I'm saying? There are no people in America or anywhere else on earth who have survived what Black people in America have survived, and who have also contributed willingly and unwillingly to the survival and the thriving and the foundation and building the foundation of a nation. There is no other place on earth where you can find a situation like this. You can only find mythology, right, similar, or religious texts similar, but still not the same, because even if you believe in the religious text, right, let's take the biblical story. Ancient Egypt, right, in the biblical story, was already a great nation when the so-called Hebrews/Jews, whatever you want to say, came into the country. It was already a great empire. It was already a great nation. The people who became Hebrews/Jews, whatever terminology you want to use, came because the nation was great. Came because they did not have anything. Came because they were about to starve and die. Right? We didn't come here because of that. We didn't volunteer to come here. We didn't sign up, you know what I'm saying, for a sign-in sheet to come here and work for free or any of that, right? And then let us address the mythology of the Black people sold themselves into slavery, right? We have to understand, again, this is historical documentation. The dehumanizing chattel enslavement which Black people in America suffered is different even from the Islamic slavery or from the quote-unquote slavery, which was more akin to indentured servitude within African societies. Again, I'm not claiming to be the all-knower on this, but I've only studied it for a better part of 25 years. You see what I'm saying? So I just had to get that off my chest because I'm so very tired of people in this nation continuing to skirt responsibility, to obfuscate the truth, to pass along mythologies posing as history, and to tell blatant lies about the reality of how America was founded and the things that have taken place, not only even before America was founded, during the first 90 years of America, which was full enslavement, but even after 12 years of relative quote-unquote freedom, where a virtual re-enslavement in the South that we call Jim Crow, which went on for another approximately 80 years, up into the 1960s. Again, if Black people were treated as citizens with full rights and things of that nature, you wouldn't have had Martin Luther King marching. You wouldn't have had Malcolm X doing what he was doing. You wouldn't have had Marcus Garvey doing what he was doing. You wouldn't have had the Black Panther Party doing what they were doing, and so forth and so on ad nauseum. Right? Let's just be realistic. So this idea that Black people are somehow making themselves victims or trying to compete in the oppression Olympics, or blaming people for their failures. Let's just be realistic. No one else gets shot down in the street by police for no reason like the Black man in them. You know who's second? The Black woman in them. That's it. These are indisputable, irrefutable facts. And so saying that you don't want these things taught in school because they lead to division, no, truth does not lead to division. The truth actually can allow unity, because now, once we know the truth, we can come to an equitable agreement about whether or not we need to not even be around each other. Right? But see, when you talk like that, people get offended. The same people that don't want you around get mad when you say, cool, you're right, I shouldn't be around. I should be separate somewhere else. And then they get offended, right? Because again, let us discuss the reality that Black people have built towns separate, have built cities, and had those cities burnt down and bombed and blown up and all types of other stuff. Right? So this idea that Black people have never done anything or built anything, or all this nonsense, like, is sheer madness. And so not only should, if we're all going to be here in America, not only should Black children be taught this, but white children should be taught this so that they can understand the reality of the people that they're going to have to interact with in some way, shape, form, or fashion in life. Right? Because the truth of what we have done in this country will bring more self-respect for Black people and more respect from other people. Now, are there things that we need to do to improve? Absolutely. The first thing we need to do is stop calling ourselves by a racial slur, ethnic slur, a derogatory term that serves nobody. Like that's step one. The idea that Black people can get any type of respect or esteem or positive recognition or anything else by calling ourselves derogatory names, yeah, that's false. It's just never going to happen. It's a reality of the situation, right? But I mean, we can be honest. If we being honest, other communities they got some work to do too. Because if you ever watch Dateline, when these people talk about crime, Dateline is 90% Europeans disposing of each other. Sometimes for seemingly no reason. Sometimes they ask the person, well, why'd you do it? And they don't even have an answer. They just look at the person like, hey, I was watching Dateline one time. European male said, I just wanted to see what it was like. To delete another person, he just wanted to see what it was like. And if you watch Dateline enough, this is not an anomaly. But we don't talk about that. Right? So, I think I've spoken enough on that. That's only two. I'll read a little more. It says, let's see, he says, imprinting anti-American, subversive, harmful, and false ideologies of nation's children not only violates long-standing anti-discrimination civil rights laws in many cases, but usurp basic parental authority. For example, steering children towards surgical or chemical mutilation without parental consent or involvement, or allowing males to access private spaces designated for females may contravene federal laws that protect parental rights, including the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, of which I'm not familiar with, and the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, PPRA, and the Sex-Based Equity and Opportunity, including the Title IX Amendments 1972. Similarly, demanding acquiescence to quote-unquote white privilege or unconscious bias actually promotes racial discrimination and undermines national unity. Humbly disagree. Now, I don't run around talking about what does it say here? White privilege, or because the privilege comes from power. It's a reality situation, right? Again, a European proverb, and the reason that we study proverbs of other people so we can understand psychologically how they think. What is the one of the prime European proverbs? What is it? Might makes right. You see what I'm saying? So they telling us right there that the quote unquote privilege comes from power. That leaves us with one or two options: come together to develop power, or complain and go out like some you know what. Right? So do I want to get any further into this? Really, you got ripoffs. You said FERPA is a United States federal law that governs access to educational information and records by public entities such as potential employers, publicly funded educational systems, and foreign governments. All right, thank you for that, brother. I'll put that up. Oh, will I? Yeah, I'll put that up. All right. Thank you for that information. Now, let's see. Now it says we got some definitions in here. Now hold up. You know what? Let me say something real quick too. I'm gonna tell you. Let's talk about a great mistake of our people. The passing of quote unquote civil rights laws, and various people have talked about this. So this this is not an original thought. I'm trying to think who's one of the people that has talked about it. Dr. Claude Anderson, he's talked about it. The passing of civil rights laws, and instead of black rights laws, is one of the great failings of the so-called civil rights movement. Those laws have been used to the benefit of everyone else, and to a small degree black people, but have helped everyone else in this country, except for European males. Really, it's helped European females. The whole LGBT built that whole movement on it, and we don't have to debate whether or not it's helped the Jewish community, because Mr. Trump referred to civil rights laws in his law, so that we don't have to debate that. Other people, Asians and Hispanics and whoever else you want to name. What's so bad is some other people that actually fought with us for some of these rights, like the Native Americans, actually they don't seem to have gotten any benefit. So the people with the most, the people who were most in need of the implementation of these laws at the time, 60 years ago, yeah, the people who have kind of benefited the least. I just wanted to state that. I know that there's this mythology going around now that somehow the law and employment and all these things are benefiting black people in some undue way. That's mythology, Ken. One of the things that those who shall be named, shall not be named, aka the synagogue of Satan, one of the things that they have done is used our face to advance their cause, right? And also to cause division by having putting us in a space where it appears where we're advancing unfairly in some ways, which again is completely false. So in the same manner that they're using some of our people to be the face of various atrocities and disgusting behavior, like Mr. Sean Combs. Is Mr. Sean Combs' behavior disgusting? Absolutely. BB48 Brother Tony. Peace and blessings to Brother Crow. I apologize to y'all brothers for not getting sending anything out via Instagram. I was trying to do some things and lost track of time. Oh, and let me say this real quick while people are still coming in. I posted videos yesterday and today. So if you haven't checked out those videos, be sure to check those videos out as well. And as I said earlier, if you did not get a chance to check out this weekend's event, it is still up, and probably up until this weekend, access can be gained to watch the event for $25. Now, if you would like to wait until I edit the first part off because you don't want to watch that part because it's just like pre-event stuff and getting ready, then next week I'll make that available to long-time listeners for same price. Other than that, you'll have to wait till Brother Genie loads it up on his site. So that is that. Now, let me get back to this. All right. So it says, we're going to look at some of the definitions. It says the definitions in the executive order defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government for January 2025 shall apply to this order. Discriminatory equity ideology means an ideology that treats individuals as members of preferred or disfavored groups rather than as individuals, and minimizes agency, merit, capability in favor of immoral generalizations, including that members of one race, color, sex, or national origins are morally or inherently superior to members of another race, color, sex, or national origin. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, national origin, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. All right, let's start right here. Again, this is debatable. But if we go by the historical documentation, it's not looking good. See, can I be completely sincere? Right? Can I be completely sincere here? Here's my problem with Europeans. Like, if you watch Red Pill Spaces, you want to know one of the things they always say? They always say, man, women can't take accountability. Women don't like accountability. Accountability is women's kryptonite. Blah, 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 blah. Right? And you hear a lot of males say that, European and non-European. Is anybody more unaccountable than European males? Like, seriously. Right? I mean, like, let's be honest. Thomas Jefferson was a pedo and a sexual violator. This is the historical documentation. But when you bring out this history, nobody don't want to talk about it. Right? Like, the rainbow color that we have amongst our people here in America is not inherent to us genetically. Right? If you look at the places where we come from, Ghana, Nigeria, and even some parts of the interior of Africa, not just the West Coast, some parts were much from the interior. Like, all those people are generally darker than us. It's not just our recent self-hatred that's the cause of that either. Right? There's some historical violation that has taken place. But again, we don't like to talk about that part. See, I'm for the truth, regardless of the good or the bad. And things like this seem to be ways to try to hide the truth. Let's put it all on the table. So let's have a real mature discussion, and then let's have a decision on what's next. Right? See, that we need to have a national referendum on race for once and for all, and put our demands on the table. The European puts his demands on the table, and we go from there. And those that want to stay here and deal with these situations can stay here. Because for me, I can only speak to one of wicked from his wicked ways to what? Save his life. Those who choose not to listen shall what? Die in their own iniquity. Because I'm going to be completely honest. Regardless of what Mr. Trump does, the die is cast and the ship is sinking. We're all on the good ship Titanic at this point. And though he wants to be the one who resurrects America and makes it great again, just be looking at the people that are surrounding him and some of the things that he's doing and some of the people that he receives money from, it's not looking good. The ship is sinking because some of the people he's trusting are enemies of him and enemies of America. Enemies not only of Black America, but enemies of white America, right? There is a group of elites that they refer to as the deep state, that I'll call the synagogue of Satan, who want to destroy this nation, but they want to bleed it dry economically first and also steal as many military resources as they can along the way. This is what it is. I'm sure Mr. Trump is not aware of this. He's aware to some degree, but he's looking in the wrong direction for who the enemy is. Right? So, I just had to get that off my chest. I wanted to move this along quicker. As y'all see, it's just not going to happen because I'm reading this along with you all, right? So, let's see what else it says. It says, members of one race, color, sex, or national origin cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to their race, color, sex, or national origin. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, national origin, bears responsibility for, should feel guilt, anguish, or any other psychological distress because of, should be discriminated against, blamed, or stereotyped for, should receive adverse treatment because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, sex, national origin in which the individual played no part. Let's stop right here. This is literally the anti-accountability bill. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay. One way or the other. See, my whole thing is, the interesting part here is that it says, based upon things that the same group has done in the past, this is an admission of guilt by trying to avoid the guilt. Now, am I saying that we should just go out and commit acts of violence against people based upon their color or anything like that? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm pointing out the contradictions and the great desire to avoid accountability in historical events. The past is not the past. See, it's so interesting, man, that people say the past is the past, but then tell that man that his wife had OnlyFans until last week. And see if the past is past. That was last week. What you worried about that? You know? She bought you a nice watch with that money. What are you worried about? You tell him that he's gonna be ready to fight you and him. But the past is the past. Nah, the past affects the present. And the present affects the future. But I'm gonna move on from this one because I'll be here literally all day on this one thing. So I'll just say this. I'm gonna read this last part real quick. It says virtues such as merit, excellence, hard work, fairness, neutrality, objectivity, and racial color blindness are racist or sexist or were created by members of a particular race, color, sex, national origin to oppress members of another race, color, sex, national origin. Now, can we be honest? If we talk about merit, excellence, hard work, and fairness, that's never existed in America. Yeah. Let's be honest. If you believe in those things, you wouldn't. Slavery would have never existed, because if you believe in hard work, you wouldn't get anybody else to work for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about it. One of the main reasons people complain about wanting to stop, quote unquote, illegal immigration, wanting to stop the people from being deported, is because they like, oh, we're not going to be able to find anybody else to do the work. Why? Because the work is hard. Well, if you believe in hard work, you wouldn't be worried about that. Right? So it's interesting. Now, let me see what else interesting I can see. Let's go to this one. This is interesting. Expanding educational freedom and opportunities for families. This was also today. So we're an hour through, and I haven't even gotten past the stuff that he did today. Like I said, you can say whatever you want, but what you can't say is that Mr. Trump has not been busy. Whether you like it or not, right, wrong, or indifferent. Says parents want and deserve the best education for their children, but too many children do not thrive in their assigned government-run K-12 schools. It's hard to disagree with that part. According to this nation's National Assessment of Educational Progress, 70% of 8th graders were below proficiency in reading. 72% were below proficient in math. Moreover, geographically based school assignments exacerbate the cost of housing in districts with preferred schools, straining the finances of millions of families sacrificing for their children's future. When our public school system fails such a large segment of society, it hinders our national competitiveness and devastates families and communities. For this reason, more than a dozen states have enacted universal K-12 scholarship programs, allowing families rather than government to choose the best educational setting for their children. These states have highlighted the most promising avenue for educational reform. Educational choice for families and competition for residentially assigned government-run public schools. The growing body of rigorous research demonstrates that well-designed educational freedom programs improve student achievement and cause nearby public schools to improve their performance. All right, let me stop right here real quick. Colorblind is an awkward term, brother. This is interesting because, and it may be further in the executive order, or maybe I had to do further research. I'm not sure how this will work as far as the funding of schools. Will these programs take away from the funding of public schools and redirect it to other institutions? Right? Or are those institutions, are they strictly funded by those who can afford them? Because if that's the case, then that will create further social stratification. And just will be that if you're poor, you'll be illiterate, and then your next generation will be even poorer and more illiterate. You see what I'm saying? So well, I don't really have like how this is implemented. It can really determine some things. So for example, right, let's say that the money, whatever per student that is paid in taxes, is taken and allocated to other institutions. In places where we have institutions and our students take that tax money to those institutions, this would be a benefit, right? This would be a benefit for Black people. Because I can't speak for everywhere, but we have institutions in place. In various cities, we have several here in the Washington, D.C. area that I'm aware of, right? One that I am a staunch supporter of and have supported for years. If you would tell me that a person who takes themselves out of a local school district and attends one of these institutions, and then they get that money, I mean, that would be greatly beneficial, and maybe it even inspire people to attend these institutions, which many of them are far superior to, actually most of them I come across, to be completely honest, are far superior to any public institution. But, you know, I'm not sure how that works. Brother, you got ripped off says the Department of, what is the Department of Government Efficiency is supposed to be getting the Fed out of school funding anyway, but their literacy will still be blamed on the Fed and Trump when it was Bush that implemented the No Child Left Behind. I'll say this, you know, as I was talking about the decline of America, I was watching some videos earlier this month of some teachers and professors, and they were talking about the lack of reading proficiency of college students, and even more so, a lack of proficiency of writing, and even to the point where there are some institutions that are they're trying to get people who still read and write cursive to help them to read certain documents from the past and help analyze it. That's how far we've gone. That certain things are just literally headed to the dustbin of history as far as the capacity for people to read and write certain forms of people's to read and write handwriting, in essence, because of course, the change in technology and things like that. So people are so used to looking at screens, people don't write anymore. And because they don't write, they can't read written handwriting. And then because some people are now, instead of reading articles online, they're just looking at video. They're reading and especially people's comprehension. You know, I see people online, like spelling is at an all-time low. Not gonna lie, I'm, not trying to be the spell police, but there are times when I look at stuff, I'm like, what are they saying? And I try, I even find myself having to look up words sometimes when I'm like, man. And you just, if you're not reading, you just find yourself grasping for straws sometimes at words that aren't really that complex, but you can't remember exactly if it's I before E or E before I, stuff like that. So, it's, the educational system is dire straits. And let's see, the RBG says that illiterate people can't discern scripts, and therefore the scripts of times past or the interpretation of those scripts. Yeah, I mean, the Constitution is written in cursive. As much as people like to talk about the Constitution, they didn't sit down with a typewriter. It's written in cursive, right? You can go to museums here, I forgot which one, and go see it for yourself. What do you say, brother? You got me though. You said hard listening to these low literacy podcasters, but remember these Negroes say reading is dumb. Yeah, man. I'm gonna be honest. Anybody that's saying that reading is dumb, it's because they're illiterate, right? It's one of those things where if you can't do something, then you have to denigrate it. It's one of those things. So, this educational policy of Mr. Trump can go. It can go either way. I will have to look further into it. Let me just read this part about low income working families. It says expanding opportunities for low income working families within 90 days of the date of this order. The Secretary of Health and Human Services shall issue guidance regarding whether and how states receiving block grants for families and children from the department, including child care and developmental block grants, can use them to expand educational choice and support families who choose educational alternatives to government entities, including private and faith-based opportunities. And that is where we can benefit right there. Section 5. That's where we can benefit. We're looking at something that can be beneficial to us. So that answered my question, and I'm done with that. And I think maybe, let's see, we will. Are we finished with just today? Yeah, that's the last one he did today. And I'm just going to read this one. And this will be the last one I think I'll read for right now. Protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation. This was written yesterday. By the authority vested in me as president, by the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, policy and purpose. Across the country, medical professionals are maiming and sterilizing a growing number of impressionable children under the radical and false claim that adults can change a child's sex through a series of irreversible medical interventions. This dangerous trend will be a stain on our nation's history and it must come to an end. Countless children soon regret that they have been mutilated and begin to grasp the horrifying tragedy that they would never be able to conceive children of their own or nurture their children through breastfeeding. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty horrific when you think about it. Moreover, these vulnerable youths, medical bills may rise throughout their lifetimes as they are often trapped with lifelong medical complications, a losing war with their own bodies, and tragically, sterilization. Accordingly, it is the policy of the United States that it will not fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the so-called transition of a child from one sex to another. The transition is put in quotes, a quote-unquote transition of a child from one sex to another, and it will vigorously enforce all laws that prohibit or limit these destructive and life-altering procedures. And Section 2, the definitions, the term child or children means an individual or individuals under the age of 19 years of age. The term pediatric means relating to the medical care of a child. The phrase chemical and surgical mutilation means the use of puberty blockers, including GnRH, agonists, and other interventions to delay the onset and progression of normally timed puberty in an individual who does not identify as his or her sex. The use of sex hormones such as androgen blockers, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone to align an individual's physical appearance with an identity that differs from his or her sex, and surgical procedures that attempt to transform an individual's physical appearance to align with an identity that differs from his or her sex, or that attempt to alter or remove an individual's organs to minimize or destroy their natural biological functions. This phrase sometimes is referred to as quote-unquote gender affirming care. So let's just stop right here. I don't have to go any further into this because it's obvious that I agree with this 100%. I have nothing to say here. I can only applaud Mr. Trump. The mutilization of children, it just, in my humble opinion, savage and barbaric. Right? I'm not about to argue with anybody about that, man. Think of it what you will. I agree with Mr. Trump 100%. Children should not be receiving life-altering surgery that ends their capacity to reproduce before they're even ready to think about reproducing. Point blank, period. So, yeah, we just move on for that one. Now, let's see what else we got here. All right. Now, I just told you something I agree with Mr. Trump. Now, let's talk about something that makes me to puke. Says Trump suggests moving 1.5 million Palestinians to Arab countries. What to know? This is from Newsweek. Says President Donald Trump says he wants Jordan and Egypt to take in more Palestinian refugees from Gaza in an effort to clean out the territory. Well, at least we don't have to debate what his plans are, right? Why it matters. It says after over 15 months of war between Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just Hamas. It's devastated the enclave and killed upward of 47,000 Palestinians. It's way more than that. It's over 100,000, 150,000. At least 1.9 million people, about 90% of the population, has been internally displaced due to Israeli bombardments, according to the United Nations. The conflict has destroyed large swaths of Gaza, uprooted and separated families, and devastated healthcare systems, which, of course, we know Israel has done intentionally to destroy the healthcare system of the Palestinians so that they can be destroyed. It's plain and simple. So this is an ethnic cleansing and a genocide, and basically he's saying he's siding with the ethnic cleansers and the genociders. Kind of hard to clean that up. So all this discussion of fairness and equity and peace and love and all this other stuff that we just read, and yet you're siding with a group of people who are committing mass genocide, in essence, on social media, like for the world to see, and then saying that those people should be moved to another country, which means if they move to another country, we know without a shadow of a doubt, they'll never be able to return to their homeland, right? I mean, again, Mr. Trump has completely bending over and giving evil an opening, to quote Dr. Khaled Abdul Hamid. Let's see, is there anything else here? Says on the matter, Trump says he told Jordanian King Abdullah II, I'd love for you to take on more Palestinians because I'm looking at the whole Gaza Strip right now and it's a mess. It's a real mess. Jordan already hosts a large number of Palestinians, with the UN reporting more than 2.39 million registered Palestinian refugees in the country. That is a lot. Trump said that he'll be speaking with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi about the issue, saying, I'd like Egypt to take more people. Outlining a plan, a little more, Trump told reporters, you're talking about 1.5 million people, and we just clean out the whole thing in reference to Gaza. He called the Palestinian territory literally a demolition site. Almost everything is demolished and people are dying. So I'd rather get involved with some of the Arab nations and build housing at a different location where they can live in peace for a change. When asked for the timeline for the plan, Trump said that it could temporarily or it could be long term. Earlier this week, Trump said Gaza was really got to be rebuilt in a different way, adding that Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location on the sea. The best weather, everything is good. It's like some beautiful things could be done. So basically what he's saying is, let's remove these people, take their land, and move them to wherever. Now, my problem with this is very simple. One is supporting of genocide. And if it was just regular Europeans committing genocide, it'd be one thing. But we're dealing with a special group. And one thing you have to understand is that they don't see, according to their religious doctrine, it's them and everybody else. It's not a matter of these people are Arabs, these people are Asians, and so forth, so on. And that's not how they see the world. This is based on their religious ideology. So whatever they do to other people, you best believe that if they get the power, they plan a similar fate for you too, regardless of where you are on the planet. In addition, moving more people to Egypt, where, first of all, that land doesn't even belong to the people that's there, but that's a whole nother discussion that we want to get into. the reality of the situation is, as more people, displaced people, go to different places, it causes more, it strains their economy, it destabilizes their governments, and then that tends to trickle down. So if that happens in Egypt, next thing you know, it's going to trickle down into other parts of Africa, which we already have. The Sudan is already a disaster because of mass mental illness brought on by religious indoctrination. It's just keeping it 100. Right? And of course, we have the whole Congo situation, which has been exacerbated by Rwanda, which is a whole different discussion. I had to get some, had to do some more research into that before we had that discussion. And then, as we know from, because we don't talk about this, you know, we talk about the AES, but the AES problem with quote unquote Islamic militants and things like that stems from the destabilization of Libya in the post-Gaddafi era, right? So that just shows you an example of what happens when you destabilize a place and how it can cause all types of confusion in other places. So that's why I'm against all that, right? But yeah, boy, Trump shows who he's with this whole discussion. Because my whole thing with this whole war is very simple. If like Trump said, I want to end the war, ending this war, talk about ending the war in Ukraine. Oh, man, that's easy work. Stop sending them money and bombs. None of these places can wage war against their enemies without the help of the United States. You want to end the war? That's all you gotta do. Like, being completely honest, like if you wanted to really end the war, you can really just bomb the people that you've been sending the weapons to, and then you can really end the war. You could end the war on day one. Like, can we be honest? If America went and carpet bombed Ukraine, the war's over. You know why? Because they're already losing. And if you get bombed by the people that's been fronting you weapons and stuff, you can't hold up. But I know that's a radical idea. I'm just using it as an example. Because if we're being completely honest, if you want to make the argument that, say, Britain is America's ally, I can understand that from, certain perspectives. If you want to make the let's say Canada, right? America's never had a problem with Canada. I can get that. But if you look at our relationship with some other countries, it's much more give than take as far as what America gives to certain countries and what they receive. I'm not going to name the country. Let's just say it's a little small place in the so-called Middle East. They receive a lot, and they don't give much in return except a lot of trouble. Now, speaking of which, or did I? Oh no, I already did it. Let's see. This is a running count of the stuff he's doing, and it says President Trump signed the Laken-Riley Act into law today in his first legislative win since returning to office. Okay, so this is signing of a law passed by Congress. The law, named after a 22-year-old nursing student who was deleted by a Venezuelan migrant, is the latest initiative aimed at fulfilling Trump's immigration campaign promises, including mass deportations and stricter border measures. It allows immigration and customs enforcement to detain migrants charged with theft, burglary, shoplifting, or larceny offenses, regardless of their immigration status. Wait a minute, hold up. Let me read that again. It allows ICE to detain migrants who are charged with a criminal offense, regardless of their immigration status. So does that mean that if you are a migrant and charged with a crime, even if you're legal, that means that you can still be detained by ICE and then thus deported? That's interesting. During the executive order signing, Trump credited his immigration crackdown for his election victory, saying, "That's why I'm here," instead of somebody else. Riley's mother, Allison Phillips, broke down in tears as the act was signed into law, saying, "What we're hoping for is that her life saves lives." That was a big deal when it happened, and when they found who it was, a lot of people were outraged. So, what was I getting ready to say? Oh yeah, no, I had another video I want to play real quick, dealing with. Did I play the Guantanamo Bay video? I think I played that. If I didn't, y'all let me know. Oh no, my bad. I didn't play. Let me play the video dealing with the gender issue, because I talked about it, but I didn't play the video. So that's what I'm gonna do. Play that video real quick.
The state's largest LGBTQIA plus advocacy group is issuing a travel advisory for non-binary and transgender residents. Garden State Equality is urging those residents to use caution if traveling internationally, saying they're at risk when re-entering the U.S., especially if using a passport with an X gender marker. The travel advisory was issued on the heels of the Trump administration's latest executive order blocking funding and other federal resources for the transition of people under the age of 19 from one sex to another. The order covers gender-affirming care, including puberty blockers, hormone replacement therapy, and surgical procedures. It also directs all federally run insurance programs, including TRICARE for military families and Medicaid, to exclude that coverage, and calls on the Department of Justice to pursue litigation and legislation to oppose the practice. Meanwhile, New Jersey Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman today introduced a resolution honoring the work of LGBTQIA plus community organizations and announced members of her newly formed advisory board who are going to give her input on LGBTQ issues and policies.
We do not tolerate these un-American acts that are taking place. Ladies and gentlemen, and Robert, when we do that, we stand up for the America that's been the dream for so many people coming from all over the world, simply seeking to live healthy lives, free lives, and opportunities to thrive in their communities.
So, as I said before, I would show once again who would be the face of standing against Mr. Trump on that issue, which is the dealing with the gender mutilation, I believe that's what he called it, in the bill of children. You have a elderly black elected official, if I can get it out, advocating for the mutilation of children and standing with the rainbow. Hey man, I would like to sit here and tell you all that we're not standing on the wrong side of history on that one, but I'd be lying. So we're 90 minutes in. I got one more video. I'm gonna be out of here by 1:15. Again, if you have come in late, I am your host, DC Radical 1, and this is The Center. You can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_one, on OTW2, which is a Black-owned platform, at DC Radical 1. If you find value in this information, you can donate me via Cashapp, $DC Radical 1. And the email is dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. So that's the Lake and Riley Act. And I want to read this for you. There's been a lot of talk about this. So I haven't read this. It says Trump rolls back bedrock civil rights measure in sweeping anti-DEI push. Now, when we talk about DEI, I just want to bring this up real quick. This is according to Black Enterprise. It says Black people only comprise 4% of DEI positions in the workplace. Following the 2020 death of George Floyd, companies across various industries made announcement after announcement that they would invest in diversity inclusion initiatives, often using the position of chief diversity officer to direct those efforts. A report by career site Zippia details that these positions, only 4% of the roles were occupied by Black people. According to Rayhan Ayas, a senior economist at Revelo Labs, this suggestion that the pledge many companies issued post George Floyd were not followed through with intent. Ayas told NBC News, "I would say that it's so easy to make public statements and commitments because no one will eventually check if you're committed to the things you're committed to," Ayas explained. "I can say I'll be fully vegan by 2025 because no one will ever call me in 2025 and ask if I'm actually fully vegan." And that's really what's going on here. In 2020, a lot of companies made big commitments, big statements around the DEI rules and goals. And as we are observing at the turning of that tide, I think it's very timely that we actually look into companies, see if they kept their promises with those big statements. The lack of Black people in diversity and inclusion roles made experts in that field suspect that, like IS, those announcements and positions were created for a public relations boost and nothing else. Chris Metzler, a senior vice president of corporate DEI and environmental, social, and government strategies at the National Urban League. Chris Metzler doesn't sound like maybe it is a Black person, but that's an interesting name. Most of your diversity professionals at these companies report to human resources. The human resources are headed by European females, in some cases, European males, Metzler explained. So it does not surprise me that the Black diversity officers are being moved out. It's increasingly becoming a dead-end job. Corporations are saying one thing and demonstrating something else. Going back to checking the box versus hiring and keeping qualified workers who can impact change in the community. In the company, excuse me. So while there's been this railing against DEI, and I've seen this for a while, way before Trump. What people don't understand is this DEI stuff is nothing but LGBT in blackface. DEI was never about Black people advancing anything. It was just like Black Lives Matter. The same way Black Lives Matter was LGBT and blackface. DEI was LGBT and blackface. And if you go all the way back to the 70s when the implementation of the civil rights, many of the, as far as, especially in employment, many of the civil rights laws and employment went on to benefit European females, right? More than it did Black people. So this is really more the same, right? And so Trump rolling it back really, from a substantive point of view, really is more sound and fury than any actual negative benefit, other than it sends a signal to Europeans to go back to the status quo and stop pretending that they care about anything that happens to Black people. And if they feel, and they can go back to if they're two people and they're sort of close as far as their skills and abilities, then hire the person that you like, which is usually not the Black person. Right? That's all it is. Like, hey, we're going back to the status quo. So I just wanted to bring that up because where a lot of our people are very disappointed, I would say, and outraged at the rollback of these things. It really doesn't matter. Here's the reality. The reality is that we can, at some point, and choose to do something for ourselves, or we're going to eventually just be wiped out. The fundamental problem is that the people who have access to capital and receive the most economic benefit from this country, the black people, I mean, are generally young athletes, entertainers, and these are people who aren't in jobs where thinking is required. And so the idea of pooling resources and doing something beneficial doesn't really occur to many of them until, if it occurs at all, until after their playing careers are over and a lot of their money has been dispersed on things that aren't beneficial to them or anyone else, right? So one of the biggest things, as far as just from a business perspective, is access to capital. Like, most businesses fail not because they don't have a good idea, or the person doesn't work hard, or anything like that, or they haven't done proper analysis of the market and things like that. I mean, some of those things occur, yeah, but it's really, once the business is established, it's the lack of access to capital which stops many businesses from thriving. So this is one of the reasons why you see black people start a lot of businesses. As soon as they get a modicum of success, a bigger company comes, throws the quote unquote, the proverbial bag at them, and they sell and they get out, because that's a one opportunity to get access to capital, and you get life-changing money, and you keep your name on it, and you get a residual of the sales, and yeah. And then people don't find out till, a year later, 2 years later, oh no, that brand is not black owned anymore. It's now manufactured by some major company, right? So we consistently see that. And the reason we consistently see that, I believe, is because of the lack of access to capital to allow them to expand to a point where they are making enough money that they don't need someone to purchase them. And really, you got to took the words out of my mouth. You have limitations on things like distribution. Like, this goes all the way back. I mean, this goes all the way back. I'm thinking about, for example, there was a meeting back in, I think, the late 90s, early 2000s, where some record executives, hip hop record executives, were trying to come together and do their own distribution and things like that, and that was destroyed. When, weirdly enough, that was an idea promoted by Suge Knight, and he talked with some other people. I believe Jay Prince was supposed to be part of it, and Irv Gotti, and I can't remember some of the other people. And their attempts were thwarted by, allegedly, they were undermined by Sean Combs and Sean Carter, who are now multi-billionaires. So some of those people were investigated by the feds. I just thought that was an interesting story when I saw that. So it just goes to show that sometimes it's outside forces and sometimes it's inside forces that destroy us economically. It is what it is. But again, like I said, as far as the expansion, and especially with the distribution, access to capital makes a huge difference. So I think what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna close out in the next 5 minutes. I don't think there's there's anything else I really want to get into tonight, I will keep an eye on what Mr. Trump does going forward. But I just want to go into a little bit of some of his executive orders that he has already passed. I want to talk, a little bit about the DEI thing, because that's seen a lot of black people talking about that. I think, hold up, was there something? Wait. Oh, nah, let me read this last article, then go from here. My bad. I forgot. We were supposed to be talking about this. Supposed to be sweeping back this, something from going back to the Johnson era. So let's see. Why it matters says this takes the current anti-DEI activism to a new level, abolishes decades of government standards on diversity and equal opportunity, and seeks to crack down on the same in the private sector. Trump's order revokes one that President Johnson signed on September 24, 1965, more than 2 years after Martin Luther King gave his "I Have a Dream" speech. LBJ's order gave the Secretary of Labor the authority to ensure equal opportunity for people of color, I hate that term, and women in federal contractors, recruitment, hiring, training, and other employment practices. It requires federal contractors to refrain from employment discrimination and take affirmative action to ensure equal opportunity based on race, color, religion, and national origin. This order came more than a year after Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, and just months after he signed the Voting Rights Act, following the violent attacks on voting rights activists in Selma, Alabama. The intrigue says the reversal comes after 6 GOP presidents, including Trump during his first term, kept the Johnson executive order in place while others expanded it through amendments. Segregationists during Johnson's time opposed the executive order. Conservatives since then have voiced opposition to it over claims it forced federal contractors to adopt a quota system for employees. It also comes just as Chuck Robbins, the CEO of Cisco and head of influential business Roundtable, defended the value of DEI at his company in Davos, which of course is where the World Economic Forum is held. What they're saying, civil rights advocates were anticipating this move. Reverend William Barber of the Repairers of the Breach told Axios beforehand that Johnson's executive order was needed to fight discrimination of that era, and is still needed today. It would significantly erode civil rights enforcement tool that has been essential, and particularly for women's progress. Jocelyn Fry, president of Advocacy of National Partnership for Women and Families, told Axios, sends a message and gives a green light to contractors that nobody is watching. The zoom in says Trump's order directs all executive departments and agencies to terminate all discriminatory and illegal preferences, mandates, policies, programs, activities, guidance, regulations, enforcement actions, consent orders, and requirements. And it extends out to the private sector. I further order all agencies to enforce our long-standing civil rights laws and combat illegal private sector DEI preferences, mandates, policies, and programs. So basically, actually, here it is. They said it right here. My bad. I'm just going to read this and we'll be done with it. It said, folks, Trump allies want to dramatically alter the government's interpretation of civil rights era laws to focus on anti-white racism rather than discrimination against people of color. So, it is interesting that they are using, apparently the conservatives are going to use civil rights legislation to reverse civil rights. I give them credit. That's a neat trick. And that's why the whole civil rights thing was a mistake from the beginning. It should have been black rights. If you had black rights, then you wouldn't have to worry about civil rights laws. So, with that, brothers and sisters, man, I think we've covered a lot tonight. I thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I think I'll be on tomorrow for another episode of SBL Talk. Not sure what the subject matter will be. And I do want to come on at the beginning of the month to talk about the situation on the continent. That will hopefully be Sunday. I'll let you all know. So, real quick before I close out, how many people received a notification for this before we came live? Because I actually set it up in the middle of the day around lunchtime. So if y'all could let me know that real quick before we close out, I greatly appreciate it. What'd you say again? Oh, brother, you got the 30-minute notification. And also, like I said before, I forgot. Don't forget to go back and look at the last couple of videos. We got like 3 or 4 10-minute videos that we put together from previous programs. Okay, brother KW Don, you said you got it. RPG, you said you got it. Okay, cool. I was just trying to figure out whether it went out, because normally I post notifications I post that I'm coming on other social media. And I didn't have a chance to do that. So I just wanted to see how that went. All right. So with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for listening. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Again, this is The Center. I'm your host, DC Radical 1. Follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1. On Twitter at dc_radical_ONE. On OTW2, which is a Black-owned platform, at DC Radical 1. And if you appreciate what we do here, you can donate via Cash App, $DC Radical 1. And of course, the email is dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. And like I said, I'll try, for those who attended the event digitally on Saturday, I'll try to get you all the information from Brother Genie for the end of the week. So with that, I say a BB for Odier and straight black. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_ONE. And the Cash App is $DC Radical 1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for Odier and straight black pride.